Hillary has that demeanor and that calm and the coolness under pressure, and that was a pressure-packed night, but she showed it. And my favorite moment of the debate, the first one, and probably my favorite moment of all the debates, even we'll get to tonight, I still think this will be my favorite moment, was when Donald Trump got challenged at the end of the debate about something that he had said that was clearly dissing Hillary Clinton's looks, or maybe dissing her gender. He said something like, "She doesn't look very presidential, does she, fellas?" And the moderator went after Donald Trump on that, and he tried to spin out of it by saying, "I wasn't talking about that she was a woman. I wasn't talking about her looks. I was talking about her stamina." And you remember Hillary's answer. So there's a split screen. You can see both of them. Hillary says, "You go to 120 countries, and you go to Congress for an 11-hour hearing, and then you can talk to me about stamina." And if you watch that, you had no doubt that if the moderator would say, "Hey, we're going to extend this debate by another 6 or 7 hours. Are you in for it?" Hillary would have said, "Let's go, I'm ready right now." But on the split screen on the other side, as Hillary was answering that, it looked like there was some kind of tilt thing going on. I mean, Donald looked like he was leaning against an imaginary lamppost. He kind of run out of gas by the end of that debate, and it was a very precious moment. And then look, in the second debate, that was high stakes too. Donald was trying to rattle her, and again, Hillary had such a good demeanor, especially in her interaction with the folks who were asking questions in the town hall format. So, same thing's going to happen tonight. My prediction, Hillary's going to be very strong on the facts and the details and demonstrating knowledge, and I think she'll be what she was in the first two debates. She will be steady and calm, whatever Donald Trump tries to throw at her, and there's like a new thing every day, that the election is rigged. That's his new thing, to say that an America that has prided itself on being able to run elections with great city and county election officials and state election officials, suddenly we don't know how to run an election. He's going to try to do something like that. But as wild as he will be, I think you will just see there is one steady person ready to be president with a backbone of steel and a compassionate heart and a good listening ear. And I think that's what we're going to see from Hillary Clinton tonight. And I hope the moderator or the debate format allows, there to be some probing into whether Donald's got any, details or plans, or whether it's just the big insult fest, that he seems to want to turn American politics into. So I hope he gets pressed and challenged by the moderator, both to defend some of his words and behavior, but also let's get some details on what you hope to do and why you're running. So I think tonight is going to be a real good night. And then after tonight, it's just sprinting. It is just sprinting through the tape to win, and not just win. We got to win big to show what we embrace and what we reject. We have to win big and help a whole lot of other great candidates get elected. We have to win so that when Donald Trump complains at the end, "Oh, it was so unfair," nobody will believe him because the margin is big. The stakes are very high. There's so many different issues to talk about. I think the issue that most people care about, I see some of you holding the Stronger Together book. Hillary chose that theme, not because some pollster said, "Hey, pick it." She chose it because she really felt like it explained the policies. There's a lot of policies. We know we have a long way to go. In Virginia, in Ohio, in any zip code in the country, there are people who don't see the ladder of success that they can climb. They may see a ladder that others are climbing, but they don't see a ladder that they can climb. And so we've got to create an economy that works for everybody, and that's why we've got to focus on manufacturing and infrastructure, focus on making education more affordable and doing more pre-K education, celebrating great teachers, focusing on fairness policies like equal pay for women and raising the minimum wage, collective bargaining, supporting massive labor. If we do immigration reform, it's going to increase the GDP in this country, and we want to do immigration reform in a comprehensive way, not deportation nation, which is what Donald Trump and Mike Pence want to do. So So the economic choice in the first pillar is really clear: an economy that works for everybody, or the economy that just works at the top. Even during the first debate, you know, Hillary was challenging Donald Trump on the tax plan they have. Our tax plan is nobody who makes under $250,000 is going to see any increase in rates, and many millions will get targeted tax relief if you're under $250K. And then there will be higher taxes for folks at the very top end, and companies that have done really well coming out of the recession, because we can then turn those revenues into the investments in education and infrastructure that will help communities, and everybody will be better. Donald Trump's tax plan is very different. Trillions of dollars of tax cuts at the very top, and millions of middle-class families, according to all the analyses of his tax proposal, will see a tax increase. Hillary challenged him on that. Why do you want to give tax cuts to those at the top? We did that 10 years ago, and it tanked the economy. It busted the deficit wide open. Why would we do it again? And Donald Trump kind of gave this answer, and even used a hand gesture that I think of as kind of an abracadabra hand gesture. He kind of said, no, if you give tax cuts to those at the top, then they'll do all kinds of good things, and then there will be other jobs. That's not what happens. If you give tax cuts and tax relief to middle-class families, you drive spending up, you increase demand in the economy, but when you do it at the top end, that's not what happens. You increase the deficit, and it doesn't help, or it would have worked 10 years ago instead of helping tank the American economy. So this distinction between an economy that works for everybody and an economy where you focus on the top is a huge one on that pillar one. Hillary just notes we're stronger together. An economy that works for everybody will make us stronger. Pillar two, we got to be stronger together in our leadership in the world. Stronger together not just means strong military, and that's critically important, right? I got a boy in the Marines who's deployed overseas for the second time right now. I'm on the Armed Services Committee in the Senate. We've got to have a strong military. Hillary Clinton was an Armed Services Committee member just like me. We've got to have a strong military, but we also know that's one muscle. The other one is strong diplomacy. We have to have some alliances. We've got to work cooperatively with other nations on security. And obviously Hillary was not just on the Armed Services Committee when she was senator. She was a path-breaking Secretary of State who knows how to build alliances. And it takes both. You've got to have alliances in this world to focus on stopping terrorist threats that are now not confined to any one part. People are trying to move here and there. How do you stop that? Well, you share intelligence, and you share intelligence with your allies. Hillary understands that. Donald Trump's got a very different view. First, on the military. He says, I'm going to be great for the military, and I'm going to be great for the vets. But look, he says the American military is a disaster. He said that over and over again. And as a Blue Star family, I'll tell you, my wife and I, when we hear him talking down the military, when 2 million young men and women volunteer to serve active duty, guard, reserve, in a time of war, risking their health, risking their life, because they love their country, we don't feel very good about that. When Donald Trump says he knows more than all the generals, or the generals should be fired. When Donald Trump attacks John McCain and says he's no hero because he got captured, because he was a POW, I don't even consider him a hero. Donald Trump went after a Virginia family from Charlottesville, the Kaine family, a beautiful Muslim-American family whose son served in the early phase of the war in the early 2000s, and in protecting the life of his colleagues in arms, lost his life. They are Gold Star parents, and they challenged Donald Trump's anti-Muslim rhetoric, and then Donald Trump proceeded to try to ridicule and fight with them. Who goes after a Gold Star family? Who? Let me just say, that thought should not come into your mind. If it came into your mind, it shouldn't come out of your mouth. But it definitely should come out of the mouth of somebody who wants to be commander-in-chief. I'll go one more on this military thing. You saw Donald Trump in the first debate. Hillary was challenging him, hey, where's your tax returns? You're hiding something. You're probably hiding that you're not paying any taxes. And then Donald Trump just got a lot of smirk on his face and said, yeah, that shows I'm smart. That shows I'm smart. So it's smart not to pay taxes to support the 2 million men and women who have volunteered to serve their country. It is smart not to pay taxes that support the VA that is responsible for meeting the promise that we made to our veterans. It's smart not to pay taxes to support our teachers. It's smart not to pay taxes that support the other services that we rely on. I can think of a lot of words, and smart ain't one of them. Smart ain't one of them. Don't tell me you're going to be great for the military if you've been stiffing them for years. Don't tell me you're going to be great for the vets if you've been stiffing them for years. You'll be great for teachers if you've been stiffing them for years. So first, in terms of this stronger together in the world, he disses our military nonstop. But second, he ain't going to be so good on the alliances either. He says NATO is obsolete. We don't need to be involved in NATO. He's picking a fight with our second largest trading partner, Mexico, virtually every day. If you think you'll be stronger by shredding alliances, you have not been paying attention to the way the world works these days. Such a fantastic talent pool in this country. And we have the talent pool to solve any problem that's before us as long as we let everybody around the table to participate in the solution. Where we run into trouble, in my state, capital of the Confederacy, right? We have some scar tissue. We have a painful history, like many communities do around this country. And what we've learned through our painful history is where you run into trouble and where you find you can't solve your problems is when you push people away. You can't come to school because of the color of your skin. You can't go to UVA before 1970 because you're a woman. You're not welcome here because you're a new American. When we push people away, we find suddenly that the problems that are in our grasp are things that become unsolvable. Debemos ser unidos, ¿verdad? Todos unidos. Somos americanos todos y debemos trabajar juntos. We need to work together, and that is Hillary. Well, I don't know if you have paid attention to this, but Donald hasn't really run a community focused on respect. It has been a campaign of insults. The very day he got in the race, he said Mexicans were rapists and criminals. That was in his announcement speech, right? Mexican immigrants, rapists and criminals. He's trashed Latinos. He has trashed Muslims. He has trashed African Americans. Quote, "You're living in hell," is what he said about African Americans. He perpetrated the bigoted lie that President Obama was not even a citizen of the United States in a nation where, for a very long time, you were not allowed to be a citizen if you had African descent, even if you were born in this country, free. The Dred Scott decision said neither you, nor your kids, nor your grandkids forever were allowed to be a United States citizen. We had to fight a civil war and rewrite the Constitution to clarify that, of course, African Americans and anybody else born here in this country are citizens of the United States. And Donald Trump is going to go around saying that President Obama is not a U.S. citizen? Are you kidding me? Disgusting insults about women that I don't even like to repeat, that just seem to be second nature, and I think they reveal about a person. There's a beautiful phrase from the Gospel of Matthew, "From the fullness of the heart the mouth speaks." What Donald Trump reveals by his words is that he can't look at a woman and see a woman as an equal. He will see a woman as probably a half person, half object, but he cannot look at a woman and see a woman as an equal. And so it's not been a campaign of respect. It's been a campaign of insulting people, but insulting the intelligence of the voters by doing it over and over again. And I'll tell you, and at the end of the campaign, Donald Trump, instead of being apologetic and taking responsibility for some of the things he's done, he's decided to go further and insult the very democracy that we have by saying that the United States doesn't know how to run an election. It's shameful. It is shameful. And so, look, the distinction in those issues, an economy that works for everybody, one that works for the top. Stronger together in the world, or build up walls, trash the military, praise dictators, and slash alliances. And then a community of respect versus a community where it's okay again to insult people. Going after a disabled reporter and mocking him for his disability. For God's sake, I mean, there's no bottom to this guy. Just when you think that he can't go any lower, you're going to see him go even lower. You may see some of that tonight. Who knows? So that's what's at stake in this election. This is an election, as broad as the difference between the candidates is. This is fundamentally an election about America looking in the mirror and deciding what is it that we see there. And that's why we need you so very, very much, and that's why I'm so excited to be here. So now, how are we going to win this thing? You guys follow this. You start with 50 states that are in play, and then some are really red and some are really blue, and you whittle it down, whittle it down, whittle it down, and then you get 20 days out, and you just have a handful of states that are really in play. And Ohio is one of those handful of states. And you're very used to this. Are you just toying with us in Ohio? I mean, why do you do this every election cycle? You just make it really close up to the end. You're just toying with us, it seems. This is very, very close in Ohio right now, just like it has been in so many elections. But I'm here to tell you, Ohio is checkmate. If we win Ohio, it's over. You don't need to stay up at the city. Right now, the way it's set up is Hillary could actually be president even without Ohio, but Donald Trump cannot be president without Ohio. That means you've got this election right in the palm of your hands in Ohio. And if you do the best work that you can do, and we've seen it in 2008, we've seen it in 2012, right in the palm of your hands, you do the best work you can do by calling people and going to their door and talking at your church and talking at your place where you worship, and or in the workplace, and talking to your students in schools where you go or where you teach. If you are talking with neighbors and friends here at the end, that's what it's going to take. I know many of you are here because this is a Canvas kickoff and you've already signed up. But if you want to sign up and you haven't, just text together to 47246 and they will bring you in and get you involved in volunteering at the end to make sure we win Ohio. And I'll tell you this, I like what I'm seeing in the polls, but we cannot take anything for granted. We cannot take anything for granted. We can't take anything for granted for a couple of reasons. First, while some polls are looking good, hey, we were ahead on Labor Day, and then by the 26th of September it was tied. So if polls can go from looking good to tied once, they can do it twice. You could see the polls narrowing back down. We can't take anything for granted. Second, with Russians engaged in cyber attacks against the election, we got to send a message that nobody outside this country can come in here and tinker around with our democracy. We can't take anything for granted. With Donald Trump trying to lay the foundation for a big whining campaign after he loses, the bigger the margin that we win by, the harder it is for him to whine and have anybody believe him. We can't take anything for granted. We know this. The better we do in Hillary's race, the more likely we're going to elect some other really great Democratic, progressive officials here in Ohio and all over the country. We can't take anything for granted. Wouldn't you like to have a Congress that would be willing to work? And then the last thing I'll say, and I want to close, here's another reason why we can't take anything for granted. Hillary's trying to do something that's never been done.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She's trying to be the first woman president. I say it's never been done. If it had been easy, it would have been done. It would have been done. I didn't know this until about a year ago. Somebody told me, I mean, of course I knew that we had not had a woman president. Somebody told me a year ago, do you know Congress right now is 19% women. That's the most it's ever been. This is the peak for our country. That ranks us 75th in the world right now. But below the global average, just some comparisons, Iraq's National Assembly, 26% women. About a third higher than us. Afghanistan's 28% women. Rwanda's number one. They're about 65% women. You ought to check. This is something we're checking out. Pull up the list, because what you'll see, it's not easy to explain by continent. It's not easy to explain by culture or dominant religion. all over the world, there are nations that do it well. There are nations that don't do it so well. We do so many things well. We do so many things well with respect to women, but on this, the election of women to federal office, we're bad. And part of being a great nation is being proud of the things you're good at, but being honest about the things you're not good at, and then trying to get better at it. But because it's been hard, we can't take anything for granted. And so my advice to you is the advice that I use myself in elections. I'll tell you, this is my 9th election. I'm 8-0, and I'm going to be 9-0.